What's going on, everyone? Talen here, and welcome to another Marvel Future Fight video. Alright, so in this one here, we're going to be taking a look at Red Guardian. We are still on the APK, or the pre-update version of the game, so with that comes the standard disclaimer. This video is brought to you by Netmarble and the Star Agents program, and all of these stats, values, numbers, descriptions, and stuff like that that you see here can change from now until the live version. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at Red Guardian and see what he's going to be looking like in the game here. We have his modern look and his uniform or his movie look right from the start of the game, so same as Yelena. So we have both of the looks here, but first let's go ahead and take a look at the modern look here and see what his skills are doing. His first skill's pretty much nothing going on. Second skill, same thing. Third skill, we have some damage immunity here for 5 seconds, so that's quite nice. The fourth skill, we have all defense down. That does apply to world bosses. It's minus 30%, and it's got minus 15 per hit, so it'll stack up pretty much immediately. He might be good as a striker as well if he strikes with that. I haven't checked if he uses this skill or not, so we'll look at that a little bit later. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. The fifth skill, we have ignore dodge by 30, or by 30, by, I saw the 3 seconds, by 75% for 3 seconds. So not too long there, only 3 seconds. And then a 75% chance to penetrate barrier, shield, all damage immune, and invincibility. And then he also gets a pretty nice buff there, 40% all attack and all defense for 10 seconds. So that's pretty nice buff. His passive here is going to give him super armor and all defense up by 25%. So you don't have to really rely or give him guard break immunity. So he's got the super armor right there. His leadership gives... Okay, yeah, so his leadership just changed from his base look to his uniform, because as you can see here, it says applies to villain allies, a 35% increase to HP. If you give him the uniform, he becomes a superhero, pretty much exactly the same as Yelena, because Yelena base look super villain, uniform is superhero. Then his leadership applies to hero allies, 35% increase HP, so... good thing they remembered to change that. I could have easily seen them kind of overlooking that. The tier 2 passive here is going to ignore dodge by 40%, which is fantastic. Can make him useful for Corvus here, so you don't have to use as many ignore dodge strikers or ignore dodge leadership or anything like that. And then he has his awakening skill as well. Oh yeah, he also has skill damage and bonus damage here by 30% and 20% respectively. The awakening skill, it looks pretty similar to what we already have as the existing awakening skills, except he has that crit rate and crit damage. I don't remember if the other ones had crit rate and crit damage. I think they were only the all attack. But anyway, he's got crit rate and crit damage by 50%, but it's only for 10 seconds, so it's not that huge 40-second buff that we see for the all attack and all defense. And then it increases damage by only 35% for 1 hit for the skill. Removes all debuffs, gives him 10 seconds of invincibility, and it has all defense down that stacks up to minus 50%. So again, looking pretty good, and with the track record for the awakening skills, they've always been very, very powerful. So I would assume the same thing is the case here for his awakening skill. It's definitely going to be his most damaging skill, and it looks like it's providing a sizable buff. So yeah, if you're playing Red Guardian, you're probably going to want to get his awakening skill, but yeah, I don't really want to go into the awakening skill because I think they need to give us a little more material so we can unlock awakening skills a little bit quicker. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the build here. We've got Power of Angry Hulk, and we just have Ctp of Destruction on him. Again, he doesn't need the immune to guard break. This is just what I had in the inventory here for the APK that we could use a damage proc on. So I was just putting this on him for the damage proc in particular, just to test out his skill rotation. But this is not the CTP that I would recommend for him. I think that he's actually going to be better off with a standard obelisk. I haven't tried him out with a Ctp of Rage yet, which I will do later in the video, but he has such a low amount of hits on all of his skills that I don't think a Ctp of Energy should be an option for him. So I think it's either going to be Ctp of Rage, depending how he performs with that, or this a standard damage proc obelisk. Or, I mean, you could give him the Ctp of Destruction if you wanted to, just to get that crit damage, but the super armor should be enough. If you plan to use him in PvP, then hey, the destruction doesn't hurt. It'll fill in the gap. He already has he already has 75% chance to penetrate, and we have an additional 25% here, so that can help fill in the gap a little bit. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the uniform here. So His uniform bonus is going to be apply to self, decrease all damage received by 25%, so it'll make him a little tankier, and then it's going to change 2 skills. So the third skill change here is it's now going to have accumulation, and it also increased the amount of time that he has that damage immunity up, because it was 5 seconds before, and now it is 7 seconds, so we have an extra 2 seconds. And then for the damage accumulation, it is damage dealt, and it looks like, yeah, it says 0.7% all attack for 1% accumulated over was that 10,000, so we should have a 70% attack buff here. Again, if I'm doing that math wrong, just let me know, but I'm pretty sure it's a 70% attack boost there. The fourth skill, the changes is going to be for the amount of all defense down that we get. It now goes up to 45%, so we get an additional 15% there, so that's quite nice. And yeah, we didn't have any changes to that. Okay, or any changes to any all defense down there. So that's what it's looking like with the uniform. So let's check out the uniform options here. The first option is going to be Hulkbuster's Infinity War uniform. Then we have Invisible Woman, Future Foundation. Then we have Sabretooth for Uncanny Avengers. Then we have Captain Marvel for Marvel. We're getting a little twisted here. Captain Marvel, Marvel's Captain Marvel. There's too many Marvels there. It's getting a little tongue twisted. And then we have Luna Snow's Andromeda suit. So those are going to be your options for the uniform. So let's go ahead and hop on over to World Boss and see how he performs with and without the uniform. And then when I do the tests with the other CTPs, I'm just going to be using only the uniformed version of him and not the base look. So yeah, let's go ahead and hop over and see what kind of damage we can get out of Red Guardian here. Alright, so here we are back at Proxima again, because it looks like all the characters from this update were physical damage, so that's pretty much where I've been spending all of my time here is at Proxima. We have pretty much the same team I've been using for all of my other tests with the other characters, so let's just go ahead and hop in and see what Red Guardian can do here. So I'm going to show with and without the Awakening skill. I guess we can start with the Awakening skill and show you just how much damage that does, but then I will show you without the Awakening skill because it's going to take a while to get the Awakening skill unlocked anyway, so I just want to see how viable he is without the Awakening skill. But first, we'll just show him max damage right here. So we'll open up with the Awakening skill like you normally would for any character with the Awakening skill. So there we go. We see Yelena and Black Widow just hopping in for him. And then we're going to go ahead and go into our standard rotation here. And the skill rotation that I like to use for him is we do the third skill, we get the damage immunity, we go into the fourth skill, you wait for the very end there when he dashes forward and you see those kind of sparkles that shoot out. That is the all defense down applying, and then I hop into the fifth skill for the damage proc. But again, as you can see, he just doesn't have very many hits on his skills, so sometimes that makes it so I miss the damage proc just because I didn't have enough hits and it just didn't proc. But as you can see, if he does actually proc on it, we do quite a bit of damage, so his damage is looking really good. That was with the Awakening skill though, so keep that in mind. But yeah, his Awakening skill hits really hard, and he has that all defense down on the fourth skill, so that really helps. And his skill rotation is pretty smooth to use. I haven't really found much issue in terms of the rotation itself. It's just the amount of hits that sometimes messes you up in terms of getting your damage proc to land consistently at the start or towards the beginning of the fifth skill, because sometimes it won't proc till the very end just because of how low the hits are. So now we're going to do this exact same stage here without using the Awakening skill, so we can show you what kind of damage that is like. And for the rest of the video here, and when I swap out the CTPs, I am not going to be using the Awakening skill, just to, I don't know, be a little more consistent and just use his standard skills. But you can always substitute the Awakening skill in for a damage proc, because you always are going to want to proc on the Awakening skill. So here we go. So this is going to be the rotation that I would use for him in any kind of normal combat. And there we go with the damage proc. Hop right into the third skill to get that damage immunity. Then we go back to the fourth skill. Let that carry through, and back to the fifth skill for that iframe. But as you can see there, because of the lack of hits, we've missed a whole rotation now for the proc. So that's kind of annoying. That's probably my only complaint about the character, is that he just doesn't have enough hits to consistently land the damage proc where you want to land it. So that's, yeah, that's just my main issue here. I got hit there just because I was just running around a little bit to try to stall for time, and there we go, I stalled a little too much. But yeah, he's normally very, very safe character to play because that invincibility, no, not the invincibility, that damage immunity on the 3rd skill lines up quite nice going into the 4th skill and then into the 5th skill, which the 5th skill is a full iframe. So yeah, he's got great survivability, and his damage here, even without the awakening skill, is quite nice. So he actually has really good damage. So he's looking like a very strong character so far. So now let's switch on over to his uniform and see what kind of difference we get in the damage. Alright, so now he has his uniform equipped here, so let's see what the changes are going to be. There's going to be no change in the skill rotation itself. There's going to be a change in the 3rd skill animation and the 4th skill animation, but that is pretty much all. We're still going to be doing the same skill rotation. We're going to be opening with the 5th skill, because the 5th skill hasn't changed at all. Go into the 3rd skill, it just has a change in animation and does give you an iframe, which you don't necessarily need the iframe, but I mean, it is nice because you have 7 seconds of immunity now. So as you can see, that overlaps a lot better with his 4th skill, so he's protected pretty much indefinitely now. And you can see that 70% all attack stacking up and doing quite a bit more damage. So yeah, his damage is looking a lot better with the uniform, and that is just because we have the additional 15% all defense down, and then we have the 70% all attack boost. So yeah, with the uniform, he's hitting quite hard. So really happy with how Red Guardian is performing. He has good damage and great survivability. The awakening skill, like I said, hits really hard, so you can get even more damage out of him if you decide to invest in the awakening skill. So overall, I mean, I'm quite pleased with how he's performing. So now I just want to do a quick test to see what kind of damage he does with the Ctp of Rage. And again, you saw he just doesn't have very many hits, so I don't think it's really worth it to use a Ctp of Energy on him. So I don't know if I'm going to test that. I guess I might as well, since I'm on APK here, and I do have a few crystals left over in the APK. They didn't give us the normal amount of crystals they gave us before, because I used those for unequipping Obelisk between the characters. I could keep testing them. So yeah, maybe I'll do that since I'm still over here and we have these crystals available to us. So let's go ahead and switch on over to the next CTP. Alright, so just to be thorough, I did equip the Ctp of Energy for this first test, just to show you that I don't think the Ctp of Energy is going to be super different to the Ctp of Destruction. We'll just go ahead and use it here. So here we go, the Ctp of Energy did not proc, fantastic. Alright, so let's see if we can't line this back up a little bit here. Okay, so proc towards the end there. It does look like it's actually hitting a lot harder than I thought it would. Alright, so let's see, we get... No, I think that's pretty similar to the CTO Destruction. I should have paid closer attention, but I don't think we're seeing a huge... Yeah, it doesn't look like a huge bump in damage. Of course it's going to be more damage just because you are still getting a boost from the chain hit damage. It's just not very significant. It's like getting, you know, an extra like 20% all attack or something like that. So of course you are going to see more damage. I just don't think it's enough to warrant using a CTP of Energy versus just a standard Obelisk. So that's kind of what the CTP of Energy is looking like. Again, the damage still looks great, but it looked great with the CTP of Destruction as well. Or the CTP of Destruction in that case is the same as just a standard damage proc. So when I say that, I mean a regular Obelisk. So now we're going to move over to the CTP of Rage and see if we see a big difference there, because it looks like since he has such few hits and he's still hitting quite hard, that a CTP of Rage could be a good option on him. But let's switch over and see if that is going to be the case or not. Alright, so we now have the Ctp of Rage equipped, but I did have to boost him up a little bit to take advantage of the Ctp of Rage. So we went over here and equipped some Uru because he was really low on his crit rate and dodge, so that's pretty much the only Uru we gave him. So we haven't influenced his attack stat or anything like that. So let's go ahead and hop on over. His crit rate is at 73% now, and his dodge is at 72%. So we're pretty close to cap, so we should be taking pretty much full advantage of the Ctp of Rage. So let's go ahead and hop over and see how he does with the Rage equipped. Alright, so it is time for the Rage. So let's see what happens now with Red Guardian fully maxed out on his Rage. Well, not fully maxed out, but pretty close. So here we go, open up with the 5th skill. Okay, go into this. And we do need the Rage to actually activate to see what's going on. Ooh, that was a nice damage. So we're not getting much activation during the 5th skill, so I'd kind of like to see what the damage is like on the 5th skill. His other skills are hitting quite hard though with the Rage, which is quite nice. So yeah, I mean, he's looking good with the Rage, but kind of expected him to do pretty good with Rage just because it looks like his individual hits are quite strong, so he can take full advantage of that ignore defense. So let's try one more time here, and let's try to get the activation to actually happen when the 5th skill is starting, or at least most of the way through the 5th skill, so we can see what damage it does. So maybe we will start with the 3rd skill, then move into the 5th. There we go. Okay, so that's a little better. We're a little off of rotation now. We're just changing rotation a little bit. Come on, Rage, go. Nope. Okay, so move around a little bit here. Okay, again, it's just not activating. It's got to be the lack of hits, because the Rage does have a higher chance of activating opposed to like a standard damage proc. But again, it relies on the critical hits, and so that is still the amount of hits he's dealing, and since he's not dealing a lot of hits, it's still just not activating as consistently. But the damage looks pretty good, so I would say that the Rage is probably the most damaging CTP for him, but again, Rage is usually the most damaging CTP, so it's not really saying much. In terms of the difference in damage, it does look to be significant, so I mean, if you want to like fully max out and build Red Guardian, then probably a CTP Rage will be the best way to go, but I see him performing quite well with just a standard damage proc Obelisk, so yeah, I don't think you need to go the route of the Ctp of Rage unless, like I said, you really want to push him as far as you can and you want to use him in like really high stages or something like that, because it looks like his damage is quite nice and his survivability is great, but honestly, I would just put a standard damage proc on him. I don't think it's going to be worth using the Rage on him. There's a lot of other characters that could take more advantage of it, even though he does seem to be hitting quite hard with it. So those are just my initial impressions of Red Guardian here. He looks like a fantastic character. And of course, he is going to be the free-to-play character of the update here. I don't think I showed that off quite yet, but if we go over to Red Guardian here and click on his thing, it says find and shop, which means he is just a regular BIOS selector character. So yeah, he's going to be quite easy to get. So I definitely think he's worth building up. He looks pretty good and fun to play. So yeah, I'm curious to know what your guys' opinion is on him. Do you like what you see? Are you excited for Red Guardian? Do you think you're going to build him up? Do you think you're going to I don't know, invest in him at all or anything like that? So yeah, just let me know how you feel about Red Guardian, and that's going to be it for this video here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, and of course I will catch you in the next one.